Okay, so thank you everyone for joining this virtual community meeting to discuss NPA 2021-0015.01. My name is Maureen Meredith and I am the Plan Amendment Case Manager. We ask, if you haven't done so already, if you're participating online, to enter into the chat box your name. And if you're associated with an organization, we'll use this as our sign-in sheet. We ask that you please mute your microphone if you're joining by phone. And also, if you could please turn off your video if you're participating online to save bandwidth. This meeting is being recorded. So how to participate today. There's a speech bubble menu. Excuse me. There's a speech bubble in the menu bar at the bottom or the top of your screen. It will open the chat box where you can type in your questions at any time. We ask that you limit your general comments until the end of the Q&A. After the presentations, you can click on the raise hand icon to be called on to speak. If you're on the phone, if you can just let us know when you're ready to ask a question, and we'll certainly be able to get you in the queue to have your questions asked. As you know, this is within the East MLK neighborhood planning area. And again, my name is Maureen Meredith. I work for the Housing and Planning Department, and I do all the plan amendment cases. And then each one of the applicants will introduce themselves. And next we'll go to Mark Walters, my colleague.
Good evening. I'm Mark Walters. I'm a principal planner with the Housing and Planning Department, and I'll be moderating this evening's discussion and questions. Next would be the applicant or their agent.
Hi, yes, Caroline McDonald with Brown and Ortiz here on behalf of the property owner and applicant. We also have Matthew Hilbig with KFW Engineers to answer any questions.
Okay, so Matthew, did you want to introduce yourself, or you just want to go from here?
No, I can't. Sorry, Matthew Hilby with KFW Engineers. Yep, that's pretty much it.
Okay, that's fine. So again, this is my contact information, and Heather Chapin is the zoning case manager, and this is her contact information. We'll get to this slide again at the end of the presentation if you wanted to write it down either now or later, but you can contact us after this meeting if you have any follow-up questions. So the agenda tonight, we'll go over the case information and how to participate in the process. Why is there a plan amendment application? What is a future land use map? After my presentation, Carolyn will give her presentation, and then we'll open the floor to questions and answers. So the property address is 1138 and a half and 1140 Gunter Street. It's 0.834 acres. The plan amendment case number is NPA 2021-0015.01. The project name is Austin Sports Facility. The request is to change the future land use map from single family to mixed use. The associated zoning case number is C14 2021-0125. The proposed zoning request is to change the zoning from SF3 NP to community service mixed use conditional overlay neighborhood plan for a private live workspace that has a gym, bowling alley, sauna, and an office component. Here's the owner applicant information. And the agent, as was introduced, is Carolyn McDonald from Brown Ortiz. Guidelines for group discussion tonight. Please feel free to type your questions into the chat at any time during this meeting. Please postpone general comments during the Q&A session. After staff and applicant presentations, if you would like to speak, please raise your hand by clicking on the hand symbol on the menu bar. Telephone participants will be able to speak during the Q&A session of the meeting. Attendees will be muted upon arrival and through the staff and applicant presentations. Then staff will open the floor to questions in the chat or by attendees raising their hands to speak. Similar questions may be grouped and answered together. Please mute your microphone when you are not speaking for the sake of sound quality and clarity of conversation. If you are having connection issues, you can turn off your video until you are called upon to ask your question. If you have questions after this meeting, they will be answered and made available by request within 5 business days and posted on the website speakupaustin.org/NPA. And this is also where the recorded meeting will be posted. You can email me or Heather at any time with questions or comments. If you provide written comments that you would like to be added to the staff case report, they will be presented to Planning Commission and City Council. If you live within 500 feet, you'll get a notice in the mail when the Planning Commission and City Council hearings are scheduled. So if you receive this community meeting in the notice, that means you're within 500 feet and you will get the public hearing notice in the mail as well. So why is there a plan amendment? Neighborhood plans are adopted by City Council as amendments to the Imagine Austin Comprehensive Plan. The city charter requires zoning changes to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Most NPAs are amendments to a plan's future land use map, and most NPAs have an associated zoning application. This map shows the areas in blue that have City Council approved neighborhood plans, most of which have a future land use map. Future land use maps look like this. This is the East MLK combined future land use map, and the colors represent broad land uses. For example, yellow represents single family land use. In this case, this property has single family land use, and the proposed zoning triggers a change in the land use to mixed use, which is the brown color. This chart shows how some typical zoning districts relate to the land use categories. So you can see single family 1, 2, and 3 relate to the yellow, and the proposed zoning of the applicant of CSMU correlates with the brown land use. This is an aerial photo that shows the property. This is a screenshot of Google Maps. It just shows some of the surrounding uses of the property. This is one of the structures on the site. This shows the other structures. This is an aerial photo with the future land use overlaid. The zoning map, you can see it's zoned SF3. To the north, you have some SF3 and some CSMU, that's commercial service mixed use. To the south, you have some commercial service mixed use. To the east, you have single family. To the west, across Airport Boulevard, some commercial. This shows the property in relation to the Imagine Austin growth concept map. You can see it's just north of the Springdale Station Activity Center, and Airport Boulevard is an activity corridor, and Springdale Road is also an activity corridor. That ends my presentation. I will stop sharing my screen, and Carolyn can start hers.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. Give me 1 second while I try to get this shown correctly. Okay, Maureen, can you confirm you can see that?
Yes, ma'am.
We can see it.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. As I indicated before, Caroline McDonald with Brown and Ortiz here on behalf of the property owner and applicant for the plan amendment and zoning case on Gunter Street. As Maureen went over, we're a little under an acre located between Airport Boulevard and Gunter Street. You can see there is commercial all along Airport Boulevard, and then there is single family on Gunter Street and further east. I know we already saw this map with staff presentation. It is the future land use map on the left, and you can see sort of zoomed in is our property. You can see along Airport Boulevard, the primary designation is mixed use. I think we're one of the only properties on this block that has frontage on Airport Boulevard that isn't a mixed use designation already. However, there is single family to our north as well and to our east, and the primary use of this property since the initial designation of this plan back in 2002 has been single family. Here is a zoning map. Again, you can see we have some commercial near us to our south, to our west, and then there's single family as you go east. So why are we requesting this commercial mixed use zoning designation? The applicant and property owner purchased the property earlier this year. There are some older homes and structures on the property. They do want to create a mixed use concept out of the property, which will include an office on the first story and, residential, a place to stay for if he's there for late hours. On the second story, it's going to be a private office. I know we got some questions because there are some interesting uses going in here, like the gym, the bowling alley, and sauna. But it will be a private office with the amenities on the property. Hours of operation will be very similar to a typical office, but the owners will come in as they please. So with that, I really want to turn it over to the people that joined today to see if I can help answer any questions or concerns that you may have.
This is Mark Walters, and I'll start. The questions are coming in, and the first question is from Omar Ghaznavi. I hope I got that right. Omar, would you unmute and ask your question, please?
Yeah, sure. I have a few. The first and probably most important one is, will the proposed entrance to this property be on Gunter Street, or is it going to be on Airport Boulevard?
Sure. And, I'm going to tag Matthew in on this question. He is our engineer. Right now, the entrance is proposed on Gunter, and I think there were some issues with having the entrance on Airport Boulevard, but I'll let Matthew answer that.
That is correct. The entrance right now is proposed off of Gunter Street. I think, driveway spacing on Airport Boulevard isn't ideal for an additional access point caught north of Gunter Street. So that's kind of the primary driving region for a driveway off of Gunter. I know there's also drainage considerations. I believe there's a swale in between or within the property and Airport Boulevard that make that sort of connection less than ideal.
So Matthew,
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, just to clarify, Matthew, was there a curb cut issue along with the drainage issue, or?
Yeah, I do believe Airport Boulevard, well, let's call it Airport Boulevard, I believe it is a TxDOT facility. And somebody please correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I do believe it's TxDOT, and it is a driveway spacing issue with based on the speed limits and kind of the criteria that we have to meet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. With that said, the second question that I would have then is, you had vaguely mentioned that this property, or like the thing that they're trying to build, will be private use. So like the mentioned bowling alley and sauna and whatever else, like I still, I guess, feel like don't really have a clear understanding of like what the intended use of this is. Is it just for like one dude to play in, or like what are they trying to do with it, I guess is my question.
Yeah, so it's a company. There's multiple owners in the company. They're investors and real estate developers. So, you know, there will be the office on the bottom with, you know, the leisure activities with bowling, you know, kind of, I say a play area. And then, you know, in case they are local, but in case, you know, they do want to, you know, they're working late, need to stay overnight, there will be a small residential component upstairs.
Okay, and what's the estimated timeline of completing construction on this? Only because given that I live directly across the street from it, I'm not keen to the idea of just like tons of debris from construction and dust and stuff like that, you know, getting all over everything for like an extended period of time. So I just wasn't sure if you guys knew offhand how long you figure it's going to take to build.
Sure. Well, you know, the first step is the zoning, and we have to get through that. So I expect to get through that hopefully by the end of the year. That might be a little hopeful. But I would expect that construction would start maybe early 2021. You know, and it's not a huge, you know, structure. So I would expect it to be done by the end of the year. But Matthew, do you have any estimates on that?
From my side, I think we would, Caroline, you said 2021. I think you meant 2022.
Sorry.
But I think, no, it's okay. I would probably push it closer towards the end of 2022 for a construction start. I think there's, you know, once we get through the zoning process, there is, you know, going through the permitting process with the city. So I think we're probably looking closer to an end of a 2022 construction start. And, you know, I'm not a vertical engineer by any means, so I don't have a good feel for how long it would take to construct, but I would imagine somewhere in the 6 month plus or minus 2 months time frame.
Okay. That's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you, Omar. Can you go back and mute? So Candace, could you unmute and ask your questions, please?
Yeah, so am I hearing this right, that this is a private facility for a private company?
That's correct.
And am I hearing it right that the entrance is going to be for that company is on Gunter?
Yes.
And is there designated parking? It looks like there might be.
Yes, there will be.
And to clarify, the zones that were read in one of the first slides, they might be zoned for commercial. They are not commercial. They are not being used in that way right now. I just wanted to, for anyone that doesn't live across the street, that is like, it's not like there's a, you know, a business next door. It's
Sure.
open lots and a house.
Hello?
Okay, that is what I wanted to clarify. It sounded in the documentation thus far like it was something for the public, and it sounds like it is not.
Okay, Candace, is that the last of your questions?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Matthew Wong, would you unmute and ask your questions, please?
Sure, thank you. So I also live across the street. I have some concerns with regard to congestion and traffic, especially with the entrance coming off of Gunter versus Airport. I'm not sure how familiar the folks on the call are with that area, but it's filled with parked cars and there is a lot of through traffic that goes through that area. I'm curious to know, so I still feel like it's quite vague as to how this property is being used. It sounds like we're being told it's a real estate office. Is that correct?
Yes, it's an office for a real estate developer company.
Okay. And in terms of the number of people who would be going into this office on a daily basis, is there an understanding of how many folks would be coming in and out on a daily basis?
So right now there's 2 people in this company, you know, that would be probably going there every other day. There will be someone there to keep up with maintenance, you know, and cleaning, you know, almost every day. As far as some of their meetings, you know, in my profession, I have some meetings with 3 people, I have some meetings with 8 people. So it really just varies. I'm really not expecting a high generation of traffic based on the proposed use and the users.
Okay. And is there a reason why why it was kind of organized as a sports facility? I'm somewhat confused by this. Like, it says Austin Sports Facility, and it sounds like it's going to be a gym, but now we're being told it's a real estate business's office, and at the same time, it's also a private residence potentially for an individual that has a bowling alley and a sauna and a variety of other things. I guess things don't quite register for me correctly here.
Sure. And, I do apologize. When we, first started out on this site, probably back in January, I do have to say the concept has changed. I think the initial intent was for it to be, primarily a sports facility for the company. However, because of the location to the airport and to Airport Boulevard, they thought it would be best to move their offices here and make that a component of the property. So, I apologize for the confusion. We probably could have changed that on the description, but this is what the use is proposed to be.
Hello, my name is Diana. Can you hear me?
Yes. What are the last 4 digits, before you go, what are the last 4 digits of your phone number, please?
2717.
Okay.
Diana Dean. But anyway, I wanted to also, you mentioned about an Austin sports facility, bowling alley, sauna, private use, for the property owners. And in that area, it's, low-income apartments, given parks, different people that's going to be traveling in that area. Will that site be gated so that the owners can only go in and out? And if it's going to be gated and if it's private, will you have signage to let the people know, do not enter?
Matthew, do you know if there's plans for it to be gated at this point?
I do not know the answer to that question.
That's something we're still exploring.
Okay.
Matthew, did you have any other questions?
Yeah,
Can
I
I
do.
I'm gonna lower your hand then.
Yes. Sorry, I did.
The next person who had, I'm sorry.
Sorry, can you still hear me? I didn't quite finish.
Okay, go ahead then.
Yeah, so I also had questions with respect to how this property's like how it's being utilized has been changing over time. As a couple of the other folks have already mentioned, this was across the street from Gunter is residential properties, and that little chunk of property in between Springdale Airport and Gunter is, I suppose, zoned as commercial, but as mentioned previously, it's mostly been it's been unoccupied residences. I do have some concern that because this is being zoned as a mixed use facility, that it could end up also becoming a commercial business where people will be coming and going. It doesn't seem like it's that fixed, nor is anybody required to be fixed to like how this property will be used, since it's a multi-use facility. So there's a certain level of discomfort for me as a resident, and I'd imagine for quite a few of the neighbors up and down Springdale, as well as, up and down Munson, as well as Gunter, that whoever is actually trying to get this property pushed through might just pivot and adjust what this property is being used for, as it's gone from a sports facility and now it's suddenly an office with amenities, and it's also partially a residence. And is it appropriate for me to ask what business this is? I'm a little unclear on. It sounds like it's 2 people who run a real estate business, but I'm not entirely sure, what this business actually is. That would go perhaps a little bit further with respect to alleviating any sort of nerve or concern if we knew what this business actually was.
Sure. The owner and the business is on all of the notices. It's called GSTF. And again, they're investors and real estate developers.
I'm sorry, was it GSTF? Like the,
Yes.
okay. But yeah, I guess was that my question was actually for the city, with respect to how this mixed use facility can move from one use to another quite quickly, and if it's being given such a broad zoning ordinance, I suppose, like, could it suddenly become a bar, or could it suddenly become a club? Like, that would be something that I would be very unokay with, and I just want to make sure there are some sort of assurances from the city's part to maintain livability of this neighborhood. And yeah, that's my primary concern. Thank you.
This is Mark Walters from the Housing and Planning Department. In order to run a bar out of there or turn that into a bar, you would also have to get another zoning change. And then there is an added step after that. It would have to go to the Planning Commission to ask permission to get a conditional use permit to open a bar there. So in regards to a bar, that's the process that it would have to go through if somebody so desired to do that.
And if I can add something, if I may, this is Caroline. We are requesting that conditional overlay. And I know Maureen and Mark probably know this district way better than I do, but that overlay does restrict some of the more intense commercial uses like bail bonds and pawn shops.
Mm-hmm. Well, for those who don't know, a conditional overlay is kind of a modifier that you can put onto a zoning district, and then you can like was just said, that you can restrict uses or other elements that are controlled by zoning. So are you done there with your question, sir?
Yeah, I'm done with my questions. Thank you.
Okay. For the next person, I guess we can go back to Omar, if you could unmute and ask your question. Before you do, Corey and Candace, you're next in the queue.
All right. Yeah. So I mean, just because Matt lives right behind me. My neighbors Nick and Francis are to the left of me, and then Madhu and everyone who lives on the street. Like, we all know each other pretty well, and we've talked about this for quite some time since getting the letters in the mail. And so just to kind of like air out what I know everyone is thinking, but maybe isn't explicitly stating, like, this is probably everyone's biggest concern, is a lot of the street parking that happens on Gunter, for example, doesn't actually happen from residents who live on this street. There is an apartment complex at the end of the street, and a lot of that street parking is from tenants of that apartment complex who either don't want to park in the lot because it's like on the complete opposite side of the complex. And so as it stands today, the traffic condition on the street, particularly at the corner of Gunter and Munson, is fairly unsafe. We've put in a number of requests to the city for either no parking signage or some kind of modification to street parking because of the fact that it's already heavily congested as it is. And so if the idea here is that these are two California real estate developers, I don't know where they're from, but if they're real estate developers or whatever, and they're effectively building this like big office with, you know, a bowling alley and a sauna and whatever else is supposed to be there, like a gym and all of that, I think that a lot of us are sort of having a hard time wrapping our head around the fact that it's just going to be two dudes going here to use it as an office and then building an entire bowling alley and a sauna and a gym just for themselves. So I think, like, to kind of further reinforce the question that Matt had, like, does this company only have 2 employees? Because I have a hard time seeing that there's only going to be 2 people using all of that, like the entirety of that facility. That's a difficult thing for me to wrap my head around.
Sure. And there will be secretarial staff, maybe some help there. But, as far as
What's the head count? Like, do you have a head count?
of secretarial staff,
Well, I mean, of the total number of employees that will be using the place or coming in and out of it, like a number.
I'll have to double confirm, but I don't think that it was ever thought to be over, 5 to 7. But they will have some of their clients there with them, for meetings and whatnot. And you can see that it's, on the site plan, it might be a little faded, but there's plenty of parking for
Can you
the,
zoom into that? Because it's like really small on the screen share.
yeah.
Another thing, Omar, another thing you might want to look into if on-street parking there is you feel you and your neighbors don't feel it's quite safe. There's residential parking permit program. I think that's run through Austin Transportation Department. And it would pay people participating in it, if you were awarded to it, would pay a small fee, or I think it's an annual fee, and you would get hang tags so people could come and visit you, or you can park on the street, but anyone who's parking there otherwise could be towed. That is an option. I don't know if you've explored that or not.
Well, we've talked about it. I think the conflict that we ran into is that technically the people who live in the apartment complex are also residents. And so that was sort of like the catch on that. I've been emailing them back and forth pretty regularly at this point, but we're exploring all the options.
I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
Yep.
So. Do you have another question, Omar? So I'm going.
No, I just wanted to, I guess, make you guys aware that that's inherently everyone's concern. Like the biggest thing, probably above everything else, is the fact that, one, we don't really know what this place is going to be used for or how many people will be going in and out of it, and the fact that the entrance is on Gunter. So I don't know if there's any way that the entrance to the facility could be moved to airport, because like it's not like we're trying to just say like no, you know what I mean, without like actually knowing what this thing is going to be. But like preliminarily, and not to speak for everyone else, but I can probably say that if this thing's going to be built and the only entrance, like the only in and out of this thing is going to be on Gunter, like that's, I think, probably the biggest piece of this whole thing that anyone has a problem with. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that.
Sure. And thank you. If I can, I'm going to put my email in the chat. If it sounds like you guys are communicating really well, I'd love to be part of that conversation. If you can send me a list of some of your issues and concerns. I know Matthew, our engineer, already went over why we cannot at this point put an entrance and exit on Airport Boulevard. TxDOT won't allow it, and there's a drainage feature. But I'm going to ask Matthew to go and look at that again to see if there's anything that we can do.
Okay, the next person who's in line to ask a question is Corey Benson. If you would unmute and ask your questions, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm kind of similar with Matthew and Omar kind of talking about. We live a little farther down the road, and I'm having the same kind of unsure feeling about this company, this building, this proposed plan keeps changing from like an Austin sports facility to now it's just these, like we keep calling them the two dudes in their office. Are we going to have any reassurance that it's not going to change again? And if it does change after this is now deemed a multi-use place, they say, oh, we changed our mind, now it's going to be something else with more people.
That's something that we can explore, putting in place some sort of, potential restriction if that would make you feel better. The property owner wants to be a good neighbor. The project has changed, and I think this is a better use for the property. It's more in line with the residential concept with some of the uses around us. And if that's something that could make you feel more comfortable with this being your neighbor, that's something we'd certainly entertain. So again, I invite everyone to, get together or email me separately, whatever you want to do, and let me know some of your concerns so that we could help, alleviate them.
Yes, thank you, because like we read the whole thing before, and this is completely different than we had thought from reading the whole paper. So I do agree with Omar and Matthew saying traffic is horrendous in that corner of Gunter. I've gotten in many accidents almost. So the owners do have to think about the number of vehicles that are on that road.
Any more questions, or that's your last one for now?
And that is it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Angela, would you unmute and ask your questions, please?
Yes. Nadia, are you on?
Yes. Hi.
Okay. Hi. Yes, we are the East MLK contact team. We're two of the ladies, 5 ladies that are overseeing the East MLK contact team and in the area. And so we've been seeing a lot of developments going up, and a lot of them are coming across our desk. I'm sure they're going across your desk. One of the things that we're noticing with developments and something that I wanted to consciously bring to your attention. First of all, have y'all had like a community invite to kind of invite the community to help them understand what's coming into the area?
Whom are you directing the question, please?
I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm coming in late. I was having trouble getting into the meeting.
No,
I apologize.
no. But who did you direct that question about having a meeting to tell folks what's going on, if I heard correctly?
Yes. Yes. So, for example, the owner or whoever's responsible for building it, the applicant, have y'all considered having a meeting with the community to engage them and help them understand what's coming in their area?
Sure. This is Caroline McDonald. I'm representing the owner and applicant. This was kind of our first step, so we'd be more than welcome and open to meeting with the community. We can really just speak to this particular property. I think for a broader understanding, maybe the city could also attend.
That would be awesome, because there's so much change going on in this area. And I'm going to be honest, it's not just you, it's just scaring some of our neighbors because it's changing so fast.
Sure.
And what we're trying to do is we're really trying to be good neighbors and engaging them so they understand clearly what's heading in their way. Have y'all discussed, as this is rising, have y'all discussed any benefits that are coming into that neighborhood, or how else you'll be becoming a good neighbor? What kind of features you're offering the neighborhood in that area, or have y'all discussed any of that yet?
Not necessarily. We're somewhat limited to our property, so we'll have it'll be aesthetic, as far as landscaping, buffers, trees. But if there's something else you have in mind, we'll certainly consider it.
Yeah, I mean, we would love to have that talk with you. Nadia's on the phone, who's a very active co-chair in the area too, and I'm sure she'd be interested in having a talk with you and the rest of the 3 ladies to see how we can bridge that. And another thing that we've found, and I apologize if I'm interjecting so much, but we have shifted the mindset of a lot of developers in the area to really kind of, how can I say, kind of embrace the area and the history of the area. Some of the things that some of our developers are doing to help us meet the metrics in the area, to include open doors for our people of color that normally would not have open doors. Also, we are talking about some of these places are being named after very prominent people of color who have grown up in the area and contributed a bunch into the area as well. That's something that we have considered. Have y'all considered the naming of the place at all, or what y'all were doing with that part of it?
No, and we have not made it that far into the development process.
Okay. We have a great co-chair who can actually tell the history of the area really, really well. Her name is co-chair Diana. And I swear, every developer who sits with her, like, rethinks after speaking with her, so once they understand the history of the area, and they're like, oh, wow, how can we embrace that into our development so that, yes, all this change is coming into the area, but to thoughtfully actually include, the history of the area as well in some form or fashion within that development. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah. We're certainly, we would love to meet and discuss that.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, every woman has a straying point on this team, but we're all about collaboration and trying to figure out how we can assist the area and understand that all this change is coming, but embracing it and understanding their history is also still there and intact as well. So,
okay, thank you.
Yeah, Nadia, do you have any questions?
I do. Is it okay? Is this a good time, I guess, for the manager of the meeting? Is it okay for me to ask a question?
Well, who is this?
Yes, sorry. My name is Nadia Barbeau. I'm with Angela Garza, and I'm a co-chair for the East MLK contact team. And this property is in our planning area.
Mhm. Sure, then I'm going to jump on to Josie Castillo, who's had their hand up raised for a little bit, but
Oh, it's
go ahead
okay.
and
I can
speak.
wait. I can wait.
Okay,
I
okay,
can wait.
okay. Well, Josie, if would you please unmute and ask any questions you might have?
I'm not sure if I have questions. I have really more concerns. I live on Munson and Gunter, you know, Matthew, Omar, all those are my neighbors. My home is behind theirs. And I have lived on Munson Street for 54 years. So I am an Austinite in this community. My parents live on Munson Street also, and they have lived here for over 60 years. So I see the community changing a lot, and I am concerned about the parking. I'm so close to so many accidents on Munson and Gunner. And the reason the parking is so bad on Gunner and Munson is because the apartment complex that Omar mentioned is a low-income housing, but they're required to have some sort of permit to park there. And so none of these cars have permits to park there for whatever reasons. So the apartment complex that they're mentioning is that their parking lot is empty and all the cars overflow to Munson, Gunner, and the other side of Munson, which is right off of Springdale. And so one of my main concerns is the parking, all the nearly closed accidents that have happened with my children and nieces and nephews, because I have over 30 family members that live on Munson Street. We have a lot of property that we own on Munson Street, and so it's a lot of it are family members. They have lived here all of our lives. I'm 54 years old, and I've lived on this street only my entire life. And so I don't understand why all this is, you know, we got a notice, bowling alley, sauna, and now you're saying something totally different and opposite. So I'm really concerned about that it wasn't communicated. I feel like you're hiding something. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to respond to that?
Sure. Ms. Castillo, I apologize. It is never our intent to hide anything. Like I don't know if you were on earlier. The concept, has changed. I mean, it just kind of happened naturally. But the sports facility that included the bowling alley and the gym and the sauna. I mean, that's always been part of the plan. So we did add the office and residential component, but that is how we intend to develop the property. So I do apologize for confusion, and I did put my email in the chat so that you can reach out for any further clarification. And then I know on the notices that went out, my phone number was on there as well.
Yes, I see that. And another concern, there's lots of school buses that come through this area and lots of children, waiting to catch these school buses. And with all the traffic on Munson and Gunner, it's very difficult for even myself, to pull out of Munson and Gunner. There's been plenty of times where I have to reverse back because there's a school bus and there's cars parked on both sides of Gunner. And same thing on Munson Street, right off of the corner of Munson and Gunner, cars are parked on both sides. Even though some of them are highlighted in red, no parking, the cars still parked there. I've reported it. I've lost count thousands of times, to the city, and nothing's done. Nothing's been done. So we're even considering as Munson residents to see about closing Munson and Gunner and seeing, that so no cars can even pass from Gunner to Munson anymore because the traffic is terrible. There's kids on this street and they can't even play or ride their bikes. Thank God we just recently got sidewalks last year, I believe. And so that makes it a little safer for the children on this street, but I won't even trust my nieces and nephews to get on Gunner because it's terrible.
Is that, that's your last year comments, Ms. Castillo?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, right now, I'm gonna go to, we have two people on the phone, and I'm just gonna read the last four digits of your phone number, then I'll jump. If your phone number ends in 9171, do you have any questions for the applicant's agent?
Yes, hi, this is Nadia Barbeau again,
Oh, okay.
ECMLK Contact Team Co-Chair. Yeah. I was just going to ask Caroline, I'm just on, as you said, audio only. I've got your phone number, but could you also read out your email address, please?
Yes, of course. It's Caroline, that's CAROLINE at Brown Ortiz, that's BROWNORTIZ.law.
Law. Okay. And then my other question is, have you, I think we notified the Springdale Airport Neighborhood Association. Have you, just about this, and I'm sure they got the notices as well. Ben, and I'm forgetting his last name, but have you guys been in touch with and maybe some of these neighbors are also in that association, but I'm wondering if you've met with them. I know you said it's the beginning of the process for you, kind of engaging with the neighbors, so that might be the answer, but I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, that is our next step. We are actually going to follow up with the East MLK board, the planning team. So it's nice to meet y'all tonight, but we will also follow up and reach out to Springdale
Airport Neighborhood Association. Okay, that
Yes.
sounds great. And yes, and we welcome any of the neighbors here. If you want to also stay in touch with Angela and I, maybe you're already connected to your neighborhood association, so that's probably the best. But our email address is emlkchair, like when you sit in a chair, @gmail.com. So we welcome anyone, who hasn't yet connected on this and or wants to keep doing that, because as Angela kind of said, we are part of this rezoning / neighborhood plan change process. So we'll be talking to Caroline in the coming weeks, and we'll love your input. Thank you.
Okay, the next person who want to sell, the last four digits are 7960. Do you have any questions?
Yes, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Yes, and I do. My name is Nick Thatcher, and I do want to start by saying I apologize for the background noise. We're currently on a bus and traveling. But yeah, again, my name is Nick Thatcher, and so I'm actually one of the neighbors of Omar's, direct neighbors, and then also Matthew and Mr. Steele they're also our neighbors. And I want to start by just voicing, affirmation and of their voices in terms of their concerns of the parking and the through traffic and even the speed of that road. I just recall yesterday my flatmate who works out of the garage out of our house said there's 3 younger kids in the Suburban driving east saying 100 miles an hour. I would like to believe it's closer to 60 miles an hour, but the point is it's on a residential street, and it's something that just we cannot afford as a neighborhood. It's just completely dangerous. As you heard from voices, today, that is the number one concern. When we try to pull out of our driveway, we are a 50-50 chance of getting hit by another car streaming down at 60 miles an hour. And so, that is number one and foremost, the biggest concern. And I understand that based on, what I've heard, the property is going to be used for, a real estate firm with, let's call it small, medium-sized business clients, let's say in and out 30 max per day. Personally, I would say I would love to get a job at this real estate firm just based on what I understand on their amenities, bowling, sauna, spa. If you guys are accepting applications, I'd love to join your team. But all jokes aside, this is definitely number one. We understand the neighborhood's got a lot of developments going on. We've got the Springdale Green, which was citywide known, announced, and I personally, as well as my wife, are very excited to see that go in. They're doing great things to help the neighborhood and keep it open with all the parks and trails that they have going in there. So I think that's an incredible enhancement to the neighborhood. And our hope is that with this project, you guys will aim to do the same thing to kind of enhance the neighborhood. And I guess my question is, so that was I guess kind of the intro, but my main question is just to confirm, is the airport entrance simply not possible, or is it just more difficult? Because I think all of the residents on Gunter and Munson, and I don't want to speak for them, but I think we can all agree that an Airport Boulevard entrance would be 100% better than an entrance off of Gunter, just given how much through traffic and parking congestion and everything else that exists.
Matthew, can you address that?
I can. So the lack of being able to put a driveway on Airport Boulevard is a code issue, and not being able to satisfy the development code that we'd have to meet as part of this development. Now there's also, always the opportunity for variances, whether or not the city and or textile would be agreeable to those variances. That's a conversation we can have, but the main reason for the lack of driveway would be to satisfy code.
Okay. Well, okay, now
Could we get a little more explanation to what that means? I'm sorry. What code is saying there's plenty of driveways on airport, so I'm just could we get a little more explanation?
No, it's so sure. So the city and TxDOT both have requirements for driveway spacing on different classifications of roadways, and it's usually based on either the amount of traffic on that roadway or the speed limit on that roadway. And so, I don't have the code in front of me, so I can't speak to it
The code,
directly. But
sorry, I was going to say the code effectively prohibits there being a driveway within a certain distance of another driveway. So, for example, if you're familiar with that Valero that is on the corner of Airport and Gunter, that is effectively the reason why they cannot put another driveway so close to another driveway, if that makes sense.
And it's the Austin City Code. It's and the TxDOT manual that regulates that.
Correct.
Thank you for clarifying.
Person who had their hand up is Candace. If you would unmute.
Sorry, could you hear me?
And
No.
ask your,
Hello.
oh, okay. Before you unmute, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, just
7960.
Yeah, can you hear me, guys?
Yeah,
Hello.
Yes.
Yes. So so to that code, is the city willing to work with the developer to allow for, I guess, a access from airport? Is that something the city's willing to do with the developer to make sure that to see if that's an option we could go forward with?
Well, I can't speak. I don't think neither Maureen or I, who are the city staff, could speak to that. That's generally a Austin Transportation Department, maybe a Development Services Department, as well as a TxDOT issue, because Airport Boulevard south of I-35 is what they call on the TxDOT system. So curb cuts and whatnot have to also go through permission through TxDOT, and I'm sure I'm not an engineer, but I'm sure there is criteria manuals or other regulations and rules stipulating sighting distance between driveways, like it was mentioned earlier. But anytime you want to take access to a state-maintained, owned roadway, there's additional steps. Matthew, is that generally correct?
yes, that is correct. There's, we'll permit things through the city, but we also have to turn around and permit through TxDOT when we're proposing facilities on our driveway on their facilities.
Okay. So, do you have any other questions, sir? I'll go to the next person.
Yep, that's all for today. Thank you so much, guys, for hearing our questions. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Candace, would you unmute and ask your question, please?
Yeah, we were told that the company that is going to use this property sometimes is called GSTF, and I Googled it and can't find it. Is there another name? And if there is or is not, where are they based?
There is not, but they are local. They live in Austin. I can follow up. If you send me your email address, I can follow up with more information.
And where, got it. Okay.
Okay. So is that your question, Candace?
Yeah, there was just a company name given, and the company name I'm not seeing online anywhere.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see if I could find out. I mean, surely if they're real estate developers, you'd think they have a website or something, but I'm not finding one.
Okay.
If that could be like put in the chat, I'd really appreciate it.
Okay. So next person would be Angela. If you could unmute and ask your question, please.
Yeah, once you find out who that company name is, because we like to do research on companies as well and developers, if you can send us that to our ECMLK contact team. I think the email address was given, and everybody is definitely invited to our contact team meeting, but especially Ms. Castillo. It sounds like you have a lot of history because you've been here all your life, and you would definitely honor us by being at the meetings as we're discussing this out on behalf of neighborhood associations and the neighborhoods. So now I have another question as well in looking at this. Oh, now just because I wasn't able to get on it first, can you just give me a brief synopsis here? This is going to be a real estate company? Is this what this is going to be, or what is this exactly?
Yeah, so it's a mixed use concept. It'll be an office on, this is their plan, and the office is on the first floor with some gym components, and that's the gym, the bowling alley, the sauna, and then there will be a residence on the second floor, a residential component.
Okay. Oh, and is there going to be real income restricted opportunities there within a residential component?
No, ma'am, it is a private, so it will be for the owner.
Oh, just for the owner. Okay.
Yes,
So it's
ma'am.
going to be mixed use. So it's going to be business mixed with the residence owner. Okay. I'm just trying to understand exactly what is it. Okay. Now, one of our biggest questions in the area, because when you're thinking in terms of water, how the water is going to roll, and even Munson has to be concerned about this question as well. What we have to shift in our mindset is that when we look at the way the water off of impervious cover rolls, because we've seen neighborhoods flood as a result of some of these developments, we are seeing them as regional solutions now to see how, not just a standalone development. Do y'all have a solution like that where y'all are working when in terms of water, where the water is going to flow, how the rainwater is going to flow, how all that? What is your solutions on that, please, to help us understand?
So this is Matthew with KFW Engineers. We are not at the stage of having any sort of technical details or a complete understanding of how the proposed conditions on site will, how stormwater will run off from the development. We will, however, I can speak to or say that we will be required to detain any increase in runoff from the property, meaning if there's a certain amount of water in existing conditions that's discharging from the site, our proposed conditions will not exceed that existing value. So we will be providing detention on site so that there is no increase and no increase in runoff, therefore no negative impact past what's currently present on site or in the area.
Okay, that's a good question, because if we go back to Springdale Green, it's right there on Airport and Airport in Springdale, and that was a huge project, the PUD project that everybody knew about, right, in the city. There was a lot of questions about how that water was going to roll, and it was a neighborhood near there that ended up getting flooded as a result. And that's why we ask a lot of questions about this, because we've learned a lot of lessons through these developments. I know that at another development that they created like a recapture system. Sure, it's not going to be worse, but we have such an opportunity with some of these developments to make it better. Have you ever considered a recapture system just to make sure that you know how to direct that water, and just to be sure, not that it's not going to be any worse at the minimum, but have y'all thought of something as an engineer to make it a better plan for the area around you and the neighborhoods around you?
We have not had that discussion to date regarding this project, but that's something we can certainly consider as we move forward.
Awesome. That's good to hear. And I know that she doesn't have her hand raised, but I know she probably has questions. She's co-chair number 3, Miss Diana.
Before if you mind, the Marine sent a message that these questions came up from email to her earlier today. Then we'll jump over to Diana. She received email says, will there be noise after 9 p.m. and how tall will the building be?
Sure. So, it'll be a typical business, don't typically operate that late of hours, but they'll comply with all local noise ordinances. And then right now, the proposed district does allow for 4 stories, but you can see here we're anticipating 2.
Okay. So Diana, you're gonna ask her a question on the contact team? It was Angela? Before I interrupted? No?
Okay, I guess she's not there. I got a personal message, so I thought she had questions.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. Yes, and thank you for those questions by email. That's awesome, because the height has been a question also in these areas. How high are the buildings going? So thank you for that. So the water capture, the history is a big question in the area. The benefits to the community, in good faith and goodwill to the neighborhood is usually the questions that we have. And then just giving like a clear understanding. We've actually had an introduction to the community so the community can understand for themselves to the project, and just building in good faith as well as what we've seen happen in this area, so that the community clearly understands what exactly is actually coming into the area. Also, we can also find out who the developer is, and if y'all can send us that information, because we do keep an audit of all the benefits and everything that goes up in the area. And if our community asks those questions, we want to be ready to be able to provide that information. We would appreciate that.
Okay.
So the next person, sorry. The next person who has their hand up is Omar. If you would unmute and ask your question. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine. Yeah, and I apologize in advance for this question, Caroline, only because I don't want it to come across the wrong way. But provided that the entrance can't be moved from Gunter to airport, I will fight this tooth and nail to make sure it doesn't happen and doesn't get approved. So I just want to know what steps me and my neighbors would need to take if this was just like a hard no. And again, not to be combative or anything or shoot the whole thing down, but I know that this is where that's going to go if the entrance can't be moved from Gunter to airport. So what steps would we need to take to make this not happen if that ended up being the case?
Okay. The Texas Local Government Code provides for people who are opposing a zoning case, if they live within 200 feet of the proposed zone change, and you can get 20%, people representing 20% of the land area within 200 feet of the proposed zone change, or to sign a petition and submit that, that would trigger a supermajority vote of the city council.
Okay, where do I find the petition?
I would contact the Heather Chafin, who is the zoning case manager, and she can provide. It's not a set form, but she can provide you more information in regards to how to petition against the zone change.
Okay, thanks.
I just want to add to, I believe they still have online, if you just Google City of Austin zoning petition, that might bring you to a link that gets you at a starting point. And then you can follow up with Heather.
Okay, thank you.
And
And yeah,
Omar,
Go ahead.
chime in with what Omar said? Yeah, it would be dumber than a bag of rocks to put more traffic going through Gunter Street, saying as somebody who's lived there for years and, you know, struggles to get in and out already on a daily basis, and it's, you know, causes fear. I mean, the person doing it, it would be, they would regret doing it after it was done, because it's so poorly has run as it is, and it's way overcrowded with the big apartment complex across the street that overflows parking onto the street. It is so packed that if anybody tried to make that the entrance street, it is going to be a lose-lose. It needs to be fixed bad, and it's already broken, and this is just going to break it further.
Well, nobody has their hands up. We have scheduled 20 minutes, but meetings don't have to expand to the time allotted for them. So does anybody else have any other questions?
I do. Omar?
Yes.
Yeah,
Is
I'm
Omar
here.
there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Omar, can you make sure that you connect with us on East MLK team? I'm so glad we're listening to this meeting tonight, and we want to make sure that you're a part of the meeting so we can clearly understand as well as this
Yeah.
continues to evolve. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, how do I, you said the East MLK team?
Yes, Nadia gave the email address, Nadia?
Yes, emlkchair@gmail.com. Or Omar, you can read yours out and I can jot it down.
Mine is like really long. You just said EML. Sorry, my parents are from Pakistan, and so my name is like really long and crazy.
Put it in the chat.
Yeah. All right, I'll drop it in the chat.
I can't read it from the chat. I'm on audio only
Okay,
right
so
now.
let me just get it one. You said emlkchair@gmail.com.
Yes, you got it.
Okay, I'll send you an email right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Francis got that, Omar, just in case.
Okay, thanks, dude.
Okay. Are there any other questions of the applicant's agent at this time?
I did have a question for the city. You mentioned that if a petition receives 20% of the signatures of the residents and whatever.
No, it's people who own.
Right.
It's 20% of the land area within 200 feet of the subject tract.
Right. So you mentioned after that occurs, there would be a what kind of vote with city council?
It would require a supermajority vote, and I think it would require 9 people to overturn the vote if the petition was considered valid. And there's a calculation that goes through, and I don't know enough to give you good information in regards to how that's specifically done, but it's and all signatures must be signed in ink and presented to the staff one way or the other, because that is what we use as the basis for determining petitions.
Thank you. Just wanted to understand what exactly the vote was and who was involved. And it just sounds like it's a city council vote.
Yes, it would require a supermajority vote.
Okay, thank you.
And since there's an odd number that makes it's 3/4, it says 3/4 vote, but since there's 11 people on council and mayor, it's kind of hard to get 3/4 out of 11.
So 3/4 of the city council would have to vote to override the petition, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? If not, Maureen, if Caroline, you can stop sharing, and Maureen, you can put up your slide of the contact information.
Okay.
And could you, while you're doing that, or right after you do that, you can kind of go over the next steps in the process so everybody will know what's going on.
Correct. Okay. So there's my phone number and email, and Heather's phone number and email. So the next step is my team will meet and we will make a recommendation on the proposed change to the future land use map. Then we will pass that information on to the zoning team, and they will make their recommendation on the proposed zoning. We'll eventually reach out to the planning contact team once we pick out a planning commission city council date, and work with the team on deadlines to get their letter of recommendation. If Caroline plans to meet with the planning contact team after this meeting, if y'all can just keep us posted of those meetings so we can factor that in when we start looking at planning commission and city council hearings.
May I ask one more question?
Sure.
What is the biggest reason? I just kind of want to keep this in my head because I can see this as the biggest concern right now. What is the biggest reason that that entry cannot be put on airport versus Gunter? Again, what was the biggest reason?
The distance that the proposed driveway would be relative to existing driveways north and south of the property. So by what the code, as the code reads, they would be too close to each other.
So put it plainly, I guess the city of Austin's code does not allow it based on current existing uses in their driveways, and nor does TxDOT.
And that's because the driveway at Valero is too close to that driveway that would be there, right?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. I'm just trying to envision that. Okay. So basically, there's not a way to, I'm just curious, because I know that airport's about to go through some major changes too, right? So I'm curious to understand is, I don't know, I haven't seen the design of airport, but I know that we discussed this a lot, that there's about to be a lot of changes on airport. I'm trying to understand, is there an option? I know there's going to be a driveway there, but I don't know. I would have to really look at the renderings and really understand it. We'll probably do like what we do site visits to try to understand exactly what's going on over there. And we'll probably do that so that we can really visualize what the problem is as well.
Yeah, and on the
So-
airport side, the west side of the property, there's like a pretty big, like I guess ditch is the best word I can think of to describe it, but it's pretty deep. So you need to, build a structure that bridge the streets, or I guess the parking lot to the street, because it does dip down. The land does pretty significantly for rain to run through. So you need to add that. And then there's also on the north side of the property, there's another building that does have a entrance from airport that does connect to the property, so that could also be a way that traffic would flow through from the north onto the property. And I mean, I think I'm own one of the houses on Gunter, and I can speak for all of our my neighbors when I say the current property is probably not the best thing that could be done with the land right now, and so we're excited about new things coming that could be big gifts. But anybody who's building something on that land, they're going to regret it, and it's going to be a really big capex. They're going to wish they hadn't spent if they have it to where the traffic has to go through airport. Just the street is not set up for that to be a solution that makes anybody happy. It's way too crowded as is.
So
Got it. Okay.
we're going to take all of your comments back to basically, to the development team and see if there's anything we can do. We do want to be good neighbors. We don't want to be, or, the development team doesn't want to be stuck in traffic. So, I mean, we're going to go back and see what we can do. See if there's anything we could do about access onto Airport Boulevard.
Yeah,
And,
they
like,
just,
so
I
'cause
guess
we-
I would tell them it'd be one complaint a month of one of their customers getting like a wreck slightly coming in and out of the driveway. I mean, that's like the reality of what would probably happen, and nobody wants that.
Yeah. Understood.
Yeah, and I could see Ms. Castillo's concern here too, because you're looking at Munson here, and thank you for showing us this photo because this gives us another vision of it. And those water questions are real questions about what can actually impact Munson as well. And so that's why they need to clearly understand like where the traffic is going to head, how that's going to stay safe, the kids that are there. Now I understand why she's asking all these questions, and these are great questions right now. And then also how that water is going to travel, like where the recapture is and everything like that, because it was a neighborhood near here that ended up getting flooded as a result of another development because we didn't look at it regionally, or the developers did not look at it regionally. They just looked at it as a standalone. What we found to be more effective in the area is to look at everything regional, including traffic solutions as well, if that's helpful.
Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, we can end a little bit early.
Yeah, I just had one last closing comment. Caroline, I would say if the landowner or the current property owner is trying to be a good neighbor, it might be a good idea for him to join us next time.
Okay, I will certainly convey that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, well, if that is the end of any questions and comments, we can call the meeting, and it looks like everybody's going to have some homework to do after this. So thank you for sharing your time with us and coming to this meeting, and we really appreciate that. And if you have questions, you can contact Maureen or Heather. And with that, I'd like to thank you again and wish you all a good evening, and so we can all get to our dinners. So have a nice
Thank
evening.
you.
you.
Y'all have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Miranda.
Thank you.
Very good, Omar, Jessica,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.